For those of you on the East Coast, good afternoon. For those of you elsewhere, good morning. We are going to wait a couple of minutes to give stragglers the opportunity to pop in. In the meantime, while we're waiting for everybody, I am going to launch a poll that we're hoping that you'll take. We're going to launch one poll at the beginning and one poll at the end. So while we're waiting for everybody else to join in, if you could please take the time to answer these few short questions. For those of you who are just joining, good morning. Unless you're on the East Coast, good afternoon. We're going to wait a couple of additional minutes for people to join us, so that way we can all start together. If you could take a few seconds to answer 4 brief questions, that would really be helpful in helping us ensure that we address everybody's curiosities and concerns today. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Again, anybody who is able, if you could please take the short pre-webinar poll, that would be really helpful. We're going to get started at about 12:05 Eastern, 9:05 Pacific. Thanks again for waiting. All right, we're going to get started. I'm going to end the poll. Thank you for those of you who took the time to answer for us. All right. Okay, sorry, didn't mean to launch the results. Look at that, it all closed. All right, that was not what we wanted to do, clearly. All right, here. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Andrew Feinberg. I'm a principal here at TimeLooper, one of three co-founders. I'm joined today by a fellow co-founder of mine, Yeet. And we're going to walk you through the amazing opportunities of AI as we understand them. And we say the amazing opportunities. Obviously, we're also going to spend a considerable amount of time talking about some of the concerns and pitfalls of AI and how to mitigate those. And hopefully, when you leave the webinar today, you'll have a better understanding about the opportunities around AI, both inside the exhibition, but also more broadly within your entire institution. We're going to be talking about several opportunities to utilize AI at the back end of your house that also can transform your operations, not only within your exhibition. And we are recording this webinar, so don't feel like you have to take notes. We're going to distribute the slides and the webinar recording to everybody who attended the webinar today. And then, of course, as we're going through the webinar, please feel free to drop a hello into the chat, questions into the Q&A, and we'll do our best to address your questions as we go. So first and foremost, we want to spend a few minutes talking about really the revolution that's happening with AI. And obviously, there's no better place to start with regards to this revolution than in more talking about what it means for the visitor experience. So first and foremost, AI really has the power to transform an exhibition into something that's far more dynamic and responsive than anything else that we've ever seen inside of museum exhibitions. When we think about what a museum has historically been or how it has historically been designed, it has been a curated and defined information set that is presented to the visitor, right? That could be as an interpretive panel, that could be as a video, that could be as a touchscreen interactive. But the curators and the education staff are determining the set of information that they're presenting to the visitor. Realistically, when people come to your museum or to your public land, they may have a set of topics that they want to learn about that you don't touch on or that you don't present or that you don't fully explore. And so AI gives the power back to the visitor in a much more dynamic way, and it allows them through inquiry, through sort of dialogic interpretation at a massive scale to learn those things that are most interesting to them. And it's far more responsive to that which the visitor is really wanting to learn about, rather than what you believe or you hypothesize to be the most important pieces of information. AI also can dramatically expand the outreach in terms of its impact to your visitors. It can cater to diverse learning styles and enhance educational programs and extend global reach in all number of ways. And we're going to sort of get into how. And then operationally, behind the scenes, it will allow your institution to become much more effective at generating revenue, at generating insights about your visitors, and hopefully better inform the way that you outreach and communicate with your visitors, all without your having to hire data scientists, right? I mean, I think that many of our institutional partners believe that they would love to offer, these capabilities, operationally within their institution, but they don't really have the resources available to go and hire. Well, now AI can do a lot of that work for you. So we're going to sort of tackle these three opportunities for revolution within the museum and cultural space. First and foremost is enhancing a visitor's journey, right? So customized inquiry response is number one, right? First and foremost, AI affords the ability to provide detailed answers to visitors' questions. It's effectively a personal tour guide, which means that even if you're presenting a defined set of facts or information or a curated narrative, if there is no tour guide there to be able to answer their questions, AI offers the ability to respond to the visitors' inquiries. This has a transformative impact in that it allows the visitor to feel like no matter what you're presenting, because you're always going to have to take information and leave it on the cutting room floor, that you're going to be able to satiate the desires, the curiosities, and the needs of your visitors. Just as powerful, though, is it's really adaptive, right? So, for example, if I go to your museum and I only have an hour, or I only have 30 minutes, or I have 6 hours, AI can help curate or tailor the museum journey to that visitor's constraints. Or if the visitor only wants to learn about a certain portion of content within your museum, because AI has the ability through these large language models to dynamically present and through a manner that you're training, it's going to then present the visitor exactly with the information that they want. Oftentimes what happens is if I have 2 hours at a museum, or if I only have 60 minutes at a museum, but the museum is designed for a 2 or 3 hour journey, I might get through the first 2 or 3 galleries, and then I'm spent and I've got to go, and then I just run through the rest of the museum, which means that I might be missing really valuable pieces of information later on in the journey. I might miss the call to action. I might miss how it's all tied together depending upon how your exhibition is curated. With AI, we can adapt right up front to ensure the most impactful visitor experience based upon the constraints and opportunities or preferences that the visitor informs us about. And then last, and this is absolutely critical, is what we would refer to as educational alignment, right? So when you are designing an exhibition, you're typically designing for a specific demographic. Typically, when we design interpretive panels or we write media scripts, we're informed by our visitor to write to an 8th grade educational level. It's an 8th grade reading level, 8th grade information set. But what if I have a master's degree? Or what if I never even received my GHD? Or what if I come in and it's a local history museum in San Antonio and I'm from San Antonio? I might know different pieces of information or have different biases than an individual who's coming to San Antonio to go as a tourist, but might be from Seattle. Or maybe this visitor is from Germany and they know absolutely nothing about being from San Antonio. Right? So in understanding more about your visitor, you can then be dynamic in the way that you're presenting contextual and central information to the visitor to ensure that they're getting the most out of this experience that they possibly can, right? Somebody who's a college student in San Antonio is going to have different bases of knowledge than that 4th grade student who's coming to study their local history. AI has the ability to present the contextual and relevant information and to speak to the visitor with a certain set of assumptions about the information that they have based upon who they are and where they come from. And that means that it gives you the ability to meet each and every one of your visitors with a greater degree of precision where they are and ensure that they get the most out of their time with your institution. Next. Interactive dialogues, right? This is sort of like the main use case that we have sort of seen initially in AI. Now, you may have seen something like StoryFile in the past. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk about what StoryFile is and how AI is different. StoryFile, which is a pretty well-known program that's really been utilized in a lot of oral histories with Holocaust survivors, is they'll take a Holocaust survivor and they'll conduct an oral history and they'll ask them 50 to 70 questions. And then you go to the museum and you ask a question and then they try to match your question based upon the pre-programmed answers and try to deliver the closest one. But what if the questions that I want to ask are not those that have been recorded? Or what if I want to have a conversation with somebody from history who isn't even alive today to give me the oral history? That's where AI-powered holograms come in, right? This gives us the opportunity to take all of the primary sources and all of the curated secondary sources that you approve of and train an AI hologram to engage in dialogic interpretation. And it allows the visitor to have a conversation with you, with your protagonist on the terms that are most interesting for them. So one example that we'll show you today is Winston Churchill. So let's say your institution had Winston Churchill's typewriter, right? And he used this typewriter to write his speeches. 9 out of 10 individuals might look at that typewriter and then pass and move through the gallery. But what if we took all of the speeches that he wrote with that typewriter and then used them to train Winston Churchill? So now that typewriter has meaning. And now that you as the visitor can ask Winston Churchill absolutely anything, it allows us to move beyond artifacts and primary sources towards real conversation. You can even embed these holographic dialogues with primary source quotes to ensure that whatever the answer is that the AI language model is generating never strays really too far from the documented history. This tool allows for really immersive learning, right? It's very interactive, and it can be within exhibits, it can be along trails, it can be individualized, it can be a social experience. You could have a group of 4th grade students approach a single AI hologram and then have a class conversation facilitated by a teacher, facilitated by your museum staff with this person from history. And it's really important also to know that these holograms are highly adaptable, right? So they can respond to the context of the exhibit's themes and enrich that learning experience. So again, if you're placing Winston Churchill within the exhibition at a point where he is talking about his time as the head of the Navy in World War I, then he's going to have a very different contextual data set than if he's talking about his time as prime minister in 1943 or in 1941, for example. So you can take the same holograms and contextualize their answers, limit their data set to consider where these types of dialogic conversations are happening within your museum exhibition. So before we go on further, I'm going to now stop sharing my screen and I'm going to pass it over to Yeet so that Yeet can walk you through a couple of different examples that we have prepared for these dialogic tools inside of your museum.
All right, now first I'm going to switch the camera view. All right, so now we can see the setup. There's a TV monitor and then the computer. And on the computer, I'm going to launch Winston Churchill experience.
Greetings, my dear interlocutor. How delightful it is to engage in a conversation with a fellow intellectual. Pray, what topic shall we delve into today?
I need to restart it because I forgot to select the microphone. Do it very quickly.
Greetings, my dear interlocutor. How delightful it is to engage in a conversation with a fellow intellectual. Pray, what topic shall we delve into today?
So now we are looking at Winston Churchill's 3D model, and I can have conversations with Winston Churchill and then ask him anything. So the question I'm going to ask, the first question I'm going to ask is his darkest moment during his leadership. Winston Churchill, what was your darkest moment during your leadership?
My dear friend, you've touched upon a somber chapter in my life. The darkest moment of my leadership was undoubtedly the fall of Singapore in 1942. It was a bitter pill to swallow, a blow to the British Empire. But as I famously said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And continue we did until victory was ours.
So now I'm going to pretend as if I am a 7th grade student. Hi, Winston. I'm a 7th grade student. What advice do you have for me?
Well, hello there, young scholar. How splendid to have a bright mind like yours seeking advice from an old warhorse like me. My advice to you, dear lad or lass, is to never, ever give up. Remember, success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Keep that indomitable spirit burning, and you shall conquer any challenge that comes your way. Carry on, my young friend, and make history proud.
All right, so now I'm going to ask the audience, do you have any question? Please, if you have any questions, edit in the chat box, and I'm going to ask this question for you.
To Winston Churchill, that is.
To Winston Churchill. Any questions? No one? Anyone? All right, Andrew, why don't you ask the question?
Somebody asked a question. How did you feel about becoming prime minister?
All right. What's the question again? The question is,
how did you feel about becoming prime minister?
How do you feel about becoming a prime minister?
Well, my dear friend, becoming prime minister was quite the adventure. It was like being thrown into the lion's den, but I faced it with bulldog determination. As I famously said, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. And let me tell you, I gave it my all.
Another one.
Somebody wants to know what his favorite moment was with the royal family.
What was your favorite moment with the royal family?
The royal family. Quite a splendid bunch, I must say. One of my favorite moments was when I had the honor of meeting King George VI during the darkest days of World War II. We shared a heartfelt conversation, and I could see the determination in his eyes. As I famously said, kings may be blessed, but we are glorious. It was a moment of unity and strength that I shall never forget.
Maybe one more. Somebody asked, what did you think of President Roosevelt?
What did you think of President Roosevelt, FDR?
President Roosevelt, a formidable leader indeed. I must say, my dear friend, I had my fair share of disagreements with him. As I once said, you have enemies. Good. That means you've stood up for something sometime in your life. And stand up I did. We had our differences, but I respected his position and the challenges he faced. After all, politics can be a rough game, but it's all part of the grand tapestry of democracy, isn't it?
We got an interesting question. Somebody wants to know what happens if you ask a simple question that a kid might ask that isn't topical, such as what's your favorite food? And maybe you can talk about what Winston Churchill's answer.
Sorry.
Well, my dear friend, when it comes to food, I must confess that I have quite the fondness for a good old-fashioned English roast beef. There's nothing quite like sinking your teeth into a juicy, succulent slice of beef, accompanied by some Yorkshire pudding and a generous dollop of horseradish sauce. As I famously said, I am easily satisfied with the very best. And when it comes to a hearty meal, roast beef certainly fits the bill.
Now, Yeet, if you could answer to the group, what happens if somebody asks a question that a museum curator deems either inappropriate or not inappropriate, but not topical to the conversation?
So we can test that with the next
Okay.
AI preferred.
Okay.
Tesla, Nevada State Parks is using this AI character. I'm going to close this one and then launch that one.
Okay. So Lisa, you didn't ask that question directly, but you did. I think what you were getting at is also interesting, where oftentimes an institution will say that, at least as it relates to AI, we want to give people the ability to ask questions, but we want to bound the topic area. We don't want to provide sort of a blank check for the visitor to take the conversation wherever they want for any host of reasons.
Hello there. Welcome to Ice Age Fossil State Park. I'm Tessa, your friendly park ranger. How can I assist you today? Are you interested in learning about the fascinating fossils, the park's trails, or maybe the diverse wildlife that calls this place home? Feel free to ask me anything.
All right, so this park ranger is being used. Nevada State Park has a new park. It's called Ice Age State Park. It's opening, I think, next month. And this is used as a mobile application. And then I have a video that I'm going to show it to you. This park ranger is specifically trained for this specific park. So it's not even, they didn't want even Tessa to answer a broader response to Ice Age in general, but anything that is applicable and relevant for their parks. So now, I'm going to ask her favorite color, for example. Hey, Tessa, what's your favorite color?
Hello there. As a park ranger, I don't really have a favorite color. My focus is on the beautiful nature and wildlife here at Ice Age Fossil State Park. Is there anything else I can help you with regarding the park fossils, animals, or nature? Feel free to ask more questions.
I didn't finish my math homework. Can you help me?
I'm sorry, but as a park ranger, my expertise lies in the field of nature and wildlife. I am not able to assist with math homework. However, if you have any questions about Ice Age fossils, state park fossils, animals, or nature, I'd be more than happy to help.
There's a great question. What if people don't know what to ask? So this hologram, it is going to be placed inside of an exhibit. So there is lots of information before you start engaging with the hologram. In addition to that, we put a touch screen, not this, a different version, and there are pre-recorded questions. So if you don't have a question, if you don't know what to ask, you can select one of those questions, or you can ask anything. So what we are seeing is people are paying attention to different things until they come and then they start asking everything that they were thinking to ask. Or if they don't have anything to ask, they choose one of the questions. But whenever they select one of those questions, that immediately creates more curiosity, and then they start asking questions related to what they've selected from the screen.
Yeah, I know we're going to get to this in a little bit, but somebody did ask, I think it's topically appropriate for here. What happens if somebody asks a question in a different language, or if they need an answer in ASL, if prompted?
Yeah. So it is adaptive, and then it knows all the languages. So the best part is you upload, which will come to this, how you train these AI, but you upload all of your interpretive content, all the approved content to this database, custom database. And then the AI translates to any languages: Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, French. In Japan, we were using this product in Japan and South Korea, and its primary use case is for international visitors as a multi-language information source. So yes, it does translate, and then also it saves you money on the translation cost because AI translates everything. And also in the accessibility side, it supports subtitles, different fonts, but also sign language. So in real time, it answers your questions with a sign language, not the avatar itself, but opens a new small window next to it, and then you can see the sign language person giving you the response.
We do have one question specifically to Tessa here. I think this one individual would like to know what happens if you ask Tessa what's a good trail to use at the park while you're hiking. And then also the individual asked, is this a mobile app? Is this for Apple? How does that work?
So this is a software program that can be launched on multiple platforms. Right now, we are just launching on on a screen. It could have been a projector, life-size projector. It can be on a website where teachers can launch inside the classroom and then have conversations with park ranger or historical figures, or it can be inside a mobile app. Now I'm going to share my screen and then show how it works inside the mobile app. This is the UI of the Trails app. It's being used by multiple state park systems. And when you are at the point of interest, first launches.
Herds of massive Colombian mammoths once called this place home. Their fossils are some of the most abundant in Tule Springs. They were the largest land mammal to roam this area, and the largest land mammal ever found in North America. Measuring up to 16 feet long, Colombian mammoths had the longest tusks of any species in the elephant family. This includes mammoths, mastodons, modern elephants, and all the relatives that came before them. To support their large size, they would have eaten several hundred pounds of food each day. With a diet consisting mostly of grasses, they would have spent around 18 hours a day eating.
Now launching the AI.
The Colombian mammoth, a star of Ice Age Fossil State Park, could weigh as much as 10 tons. That's like having a colossal living mountain roaming around in ancient times. What aspects of these incredible creatures are you eager to discover more about? Ask me anything.
What's an interesting fact about the Ice Age?
One fascinating fact about the Ice Age is that even though we often imagine a frozen landscape, the area where Ice Age Fossil State Park is located was actually lush and green with water year-round. While there may have been occasional snowfall, it would have melted away in the spring. It's incredible to think about the diverse range of plants and animals that thrived in this vibrant environment. Do you have any more questions about the Ice Age or the park? I'm here to help.
Does that answer your question in terms of trails and kids use case?
Okay, maybe we'll come back to that if they have other comments or questions. But maybe we can move on now because I think a lot of one question that's still open in the chat, and by far the biggest reservation or the concern that people have is around historical accuracy and its relevance or germaneness to the exhibition. So maybe you can. I'm going to share my screen again, and you can talk everybody through how to ensure historical accuracy of information. So let me. Okay, can you see that? Is that up there?
Yeah. The next slide.
Yep. I'm getting there. Here we go. Yep. Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah. So the power of AI comes from the database that it is using. So we are using advanced language systems to give a human-like response, but you are a good interpreter, you are a good historical character as much as your knowledge base. And in our case, in this case, in our software, the knowledge base is custom to you. So it's not you can make it available. You can also link to different websites, but on the left-hand side, under the sources, you see files, text, websites, Q&A, and then different formats. So what you do is you can upload all of your interactive content, upload books, PDFs, pictures, images, anything that is relevant to topic that you are giving to the visitors. And the AI operates based upon that custom database, but nothing else. The good thing is you don't need to create it. You can treat it as like a data dump. You can upload anything, and then it uses the information depending on the question. So that's part one. And then this is what's happening with this state park, Nevada State Park Park Ranger. Actually, we're seeing the screenshot. So we uploaded all of their interpretive content that, about Ice Age and aspects of their park, and now every answer is accurate. But also, the AI we have a second AI tool that is constantly monitoring the answers and questions. And if there's a new question that haven't been asked before, then it notifies you and it gives you the answer, and then you approve it. So the process is: step one, upload all of your information. Step two, on a test page, ask and then test questions, ask the same question multiple times, and then see the answers, and then provide feedback. If a question is this way, then change your answer to this one. Be more specific on this topic. You can provide any feedback, any guidance, but all the information will be coming from your custom database.
The Winston Churchill example, the webinar participants might have noticed, every answer Winston Churchill referred to a primary source quote. Is that something that you refer to here in this tool?
Great question. So Winston Churchill his database is open to the internet, so it's not as safe as Tesla. But the second part of training AI is the personality. So we know that Winston Churchill is famous with his quotes. So as we were training, we said, you are Winston Churchill, you are a humorous person, and then you love using your quotes. So whenever appropriate, use your famous quotes when you're answering a question. So that's the personality training. So if you want to use Winston Churchill for your museum, then what we would do is, okay, so let's keep the character the same, but cut the connection to the internet, and then let's upload all the primary sources that is your museum's about, and it's approved by you.
Great, thank you. So for accessibility, envision a museum where every visitor, regardless of their language or physical ability, has equal access to all of the knowledge and experiences. This is the power of AI in modern museums. AI technology can help bridge the gap with automated real-time translation, ensuring that language differences are no longer a barrier. But not only TimeLooper, but many people out there, our commitment to accessibility goes beyond just language accessibility, right? So we use AI with the plugins that can generate ASL interpretations, which opens the doors to the hearing impaired in ways that were never available before. And also, it means that our comprehensive approach to accessibility means that the museums aren't just places of living and learning culture, they're also really inclusive places, right? So it can also generate real-time descriptive audio text. All of this stuff is available to you now, and it's infinitely scalable, and because it's generated in real time, it's all dynamic and it's all highly responsive to the visitor. So again, we're bringing that level of customization to all of your visitors, not only to those who are fully able-bodied. And this is something that some of our institutional partners shy away from. This is something that some of our institutional partners really lean into, but a lot of our institutional partners really rely on museum bookshop revenue to help support their operations, right? So imagine concluding your museum visit with a trip to the gift shop where the shopping experience is as personalized as the tour was. Our AI technology has the ability to analyze your engagement with the exhibits, like even the questions you ask, the topics you spend time on, and then we use all that data to suggest products that align with your interests. So it's no different than like when you're on the internet and and you're going through a website and they say, hey, we think you might also be interested in buying this. So this isn't just about convenience. It's about enriching your overall museum experience, because when you go to that visitor bookshop and you're looking to buy something, you obviously want to buy something that's relevant and compelling. So the products you find aren't just souvenirs, right? They're personalized extensions of your educational journey. And so this is also the next frontier. I mean, this is being integrated throughout commercial retail. There's no reason why we can't integrate this into your museum spaces. Then I guess like the last thing that we just want to end with is if you are interested in getting started with these holograms, because it's like a really small and manageable piece of content to like wrap your arms around and testing whether AI is relevant for you, we are offering sort of a special package for less than $10,000 between now and the end of the year. To be able to offer the hardware, the 3D model, the software licensing, the training for a year for under $10,000. So if that's something you might be interested in, let us know. If you separately just want to have broader conversations about how artificial intelligence can transform any component of your museum exhibition, we're happy to serve as a thought partner. So one last question here or not one last question, but another question here is, a lot of the information out there used as sources are oftentimes filled with systemic isms, racism, sexism, ableisms. So how can museums ensure that these isms are not being repeated, or at least that AI can attempt to educate and root out those isms if necessary? So I think the answer to that question, Chris, lies here in the way that you train your language model, right? So what happens is once you inform your model, as Yeet was saying, with all of the primary sources, that is step one. Then at least you know that to a lesser or greater extent, since you're providing the information, that it is, I would say, accurate, but perhaps not precise. Then as you go through the process of training your AI model, as it presents answers, you will identify, because of your expert training, the systemic isms that are presenting themselves in the answers. You then can either upload additional primary source documents or secondary or to inform the language model, or in the text box here, you can give directions. So you might have a white paper. So your museum might be about Ice Age fossils. That's a bad example. It might be about civil rights. You can then separately upload a university white paper on isms that has nothing to do with the content of your museum, but say to your language model, whenever you answer a question, be sure to keep in mind the context of this document that attempts to root out isms. So there are multiple ways in which you can try to get at that, at mitigating the compound impact of the isms. Other questions? Great. So if you have time before you hop off, I'm going to just launch one more poll. If you could quickly take the poll before you sign off, that would be really helpful. And then we will be circulating all of the materials as well as the video recording of the webinar today. So that way you can do with it as you wish. And Yeet and I are here to answer any questions that you have. So one last question that we received was, can you tell us how long the offer lasts? The promotional offer that we have is until December 23rd. And we'll send out information on that offer. One other question that we had was, if we have existing software in our museum, can a TimeLooper API integrate in with that? The answer is generally yes, but of course the devil's in the details and it warrants further conversation. Okay, that concludes the webinar for today. Please feel free to ask any other questions or follow up with us. And separately, we will be sending out all those materials as I promised by the end of today. Thank you very much and hope you all have a wonderful holiday season.